The centerpiece of the Republican electoral strategy for the elections this year is and has been kill health reform. Slow it down, water it down, kill it at all costs, even if you have to pretend to negotiate, and even if the Democrats relent and add a bunch of your ideas to the health bill, it doesn't matter. Reform must die. That's the plan. And for a while, it looked like that plan was working. Now it seems like it's not. It seems like health reform is going to pass in one form or another, and very soon. And thus the Republican Party's attempts to kill health reform are growing increasingly desperate. The challenge for the opponents of health reform now is that people, as a general rule, don't do their best work when they're desperate. Take, for example, the RNC fundraising PowerPoint presentation that was leaked to Politico.com today. The presentation details, among other things, what the Republican Party thinks might be motivating their donors now. They suggest things like fear, extreme negative feelings toward the existing administration, also peer pressure and ego. Nice. I wonder what they say about people they're not trying to attract. But the big Republican sales pitch is that the GOP will save the country from trending towards socialism! Exclamation point. They will save the country from also the evil empire. Not making this up, that's what it says. The evil empire. These are their terms. The evil empire, as you can see, is made up of President Obama, made up to look like the Joker from Batman. Also, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, made up to look like Cruella de Vil, because you heard that thing about her and puppies, right? Weirdest of all, perhaps the clearest sign yet that we're dealing with a little hyperactive hysteria here, the final component of the evil empire, according to the Republican National Committee, is Harry Reid as Scooby-Doo. Plus, there's also a bonus picture of Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid as the couple from the American Gothic painting. So this is the Republican Party strategy for raising money and winning elections this year. Fear, socialism, Depression-era American painting, Scooby-Doo. Oh my God. Meanwhile, House Republicans' last-ditch strategy for trying to stop health reform is less bizarre than the National Party as a whole, but it makes just as much sense. The National Republican Congressional Committee is calling their effort to kill health reform now Project Code Red, alerting America to the Democrats' health care takeover. But here's the we're so freaked out we misfired part of this. The targets of the Code Red alert are Democrats. The National Republican Congressional Committee is making thousands of red alert robocalls to House Democrats' home districts, mostly House Democrats who have already voted in favor of health reform, and these calls are supposed to pressure them to vote against reform when it comes up again for a final vote. Now, here's an excerpt of the call that's going out, for example, in Congressman Tom Perriello's district in Virginia.
Hello, I'm calling from the National Republican Congressional Committee with a code red alert about an impending health care vote in Congress. Even though a majority of Virginia voters want them to scrap it, Speaker Nancy Pelosi and President Obama are planning to ram their dangerous, out-of-control health care spending bill through Congress anyway. What's worse, Congressman Tom Perriello voted for this bill the last time it was up and might vote for it again. Please call Tom Perriello now before it's too late and tell him to vote no on Nancy Pelosi's dangerous health care scheme.
Anyway. So the message from Republicans to, again, a Democratic congressman, Tom Perriello in this case, is essentially, you know, look, man, we'll totally go after you if you vote yes on health reform again. But if you change your vote and vote no, we will leave you alone. Right? We'll never, ever call you a flip-flopper. We'll never talk about the time you did vote for health reform, ever. We swear. Pinky swear. The premise of this strategy, in other words, is that Democrats are stupid enough to think that after voting for health reform once, Republicans will back off and leave them alone and not try to beat them in November and not run attack ads against them if only they switch their vote and vote no and help out Republicans this second time. Also, they have some watches they'd like to sell you. They're here inside my coat. I swear they're real Rolexes. Incidentally, both the weird cartoons from the RNC fundraising presentation and the bizarrely targeted robocalls are now being used as fundraising tools by the Democrats. Because there is a word for what's going on in the Republican Party right now, and I believe that word is flop sweat. Joining us now is Marie Cox, Washington correspondent for GQ magazine. Marie, it's always nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rachel.
How can Scooby-Doo be part of a conception of an evil cartoon empire? What did Scooby-Doo do?
Well, maybe he's going to rip his mask off at the end and he'll be Dick Cheney and complain about those meddling kids. That's the only way I can see it working out.
This fundraising presentation, it isn't just insulting to Democrats and Scooby-Doo. It's also very insulting to Republicans. It's the GOP referring to their own donors as ego-driven and reactionary. I mean, is that kind of standard stuff, or is this potentially damaging for the Republican Party and their major donors?
Well, I talked to a few people about this, and what I was told is it's standard to try and do this kind of fear tactic. That actually works. And so they're right on both counts also, that the major donors are ego-driven and the minor donors are fear-driven. I think also what we're getting a glimpse of here is those people that were in the room watching the PowerPoint presentation, those were not the super major donors. Those are people who want to feel like major donors. Those are people who want, actually, their egos flattered. They want to feel like they know stuff that other people don't. And that's probably what was happening here. And think about what a desperate time this is for any kind of fundraising. I think that they were probably pulling out all the stops, and that's probably why they committed this to PowerPoint, which, by the way, is a sign of total ineptness in and of itself.
Well, the RNC chairman, Michael Steele, has been asked about this all day today, and he's been quite furiously distancing himself from this. But it was this is a PowerPoint that was done by the RNC finance chair and the RNC finance director. So why do we get Michael Steele as chairman running away from something like this done by the top finance people in the party?
Well, again, talking to people I know who've served on national committees for both parties, it's possible that he didn't know about this particular presentation. That is believable. What's not believable is that he doesn't know that this kind of thing happens. And also what's not believable is that he doesn't agree that these things are true. Not that Obama is a joker and Nancy Pelosi is Cruella de Vil, but that again, the major donors are driven by ego, and the minor donors are driven by fear. This is something actually that probably applies to both parties, but it's just unusual to see it spelled out.
Do the RNC finance chairman and the RNC finance director get fired because of this? Is this something that is embarrassing enough to them that somebody has to get fired, or do they just pretend they sort of disavow the message but let the people who did it continue in their jobs?
We'll see. I think that this is the kind of thing, this is sort of inside baseball enough that it could probably be ridden out. If, however, it becomes something that, you know, not just you, but also Jon Stewart and Jay Leno, and if it becomes kind of a meme, which I think it has a chance of doing, then it could really damage them. But for right now, I think this is as damaging to the Republicans as the threat of reconciliation is to Democrats, which is to say, people are not paying that close attention right now. However, I think for the people that are paying attention, obviously, like, this doesn't look good.
In terms of the anti-health reform robocalls that are going after Democrats, have you heard my analysis of it? What incentive could there be?
You assume that I heard, but okay.
I mean,
you assume I was paying attention.
I understand that most people don't. They wait for Jay Leno. I understand. But, you know, what incentive could there possibly be for Democrats to say, like, oh, Republicans, I'll take your advice on how to vote on health reform now because obviously this threat against me will go away if I change my vote? I mean, what's the thinking?
That's insane. But I think what might be happening here, and I'm assuming one of the things is that the NRCC just has tons of money to throw away, clearly. And one thing they might be doing is measuring how effective this kind of call is. They might have polling that they did prior to the call, and then they'll do polling after the call. And they'll see what kind of percentage they'll get conversion from this. That, I think, might be what's happening, although it seems like it's a pretty expensive and showy and silly-looking way to do it.
Red alert!
I don't know.
Red alert! Red alert! Follow us! We're panicking.
Luckily, the Scooby Gang is coming.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. But they're evil, I think. Yeah, it's very confusing. Marie Cox, Washington correspondent for GQ magazine. Congratulations on your new gig at GQ, and thanks for joining us.
Hopefully this is the last one I'll have while I'm still on the show.
Yes, indeed. Just stay right there. All right.